Dr. Kennedy, you wrote an article and simply called on Parliament and the country to look back to the independence struggle, how our forebears were bold in overcoming colonialism, the imperialists. And you say they should simply call the bluff of what Samuel Okudzeto refers to as the arrogance of the diplomatic, missions and so forth. There's this gentleman who also agrees with you, Kweku Agre-Orleans. He also writes and says Ghana's parliament has placed an independence bomb on the president's desk, with the Supreme Court being called on to hopefully act as the bomb disposal unit. He shares the view also that an independent parliament, a sovereign parliament, should not be subjugating what it is doing to a foreign party. You are making all these bold statements, ignoring the risk that the finance ministry points us to, potentially losing $3.8 billion. We are broke. Things are really difficult for people at the moment. Hello, Doc.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, Doc.
I lost you there for a moment. But
how do you call the bluff of the multilateral institutions in the name of asserting your independence when you are broke, you are poor?
Well, good morning to all your listeners and happy Independence Day. I think I want to step back a little bit before I come to that point. I actually think this is an unfortunate debate. And once again, we are actually reacting to the stimulus of other people. We are having a Pavlovian response that the West has decided that this is important, and all of a sudden we've jumped and made it a priority. I think that the time we've used discussing this should have been used discussing problems that are more germane to large majorities of our population: childhood labor, domestic violence, inheritance in marriage, pollution of our environment, children going to school under trees. All those are things that I think are very significant, but I think we are taking on what I call the passions of mature societies who have time and are not in crisis. Having said that, I think that Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, my vandermate I haven't seen for a long time, and I greet him, makes excellent points, except that I think his interpretation of Article 108 is too broad. Because if we take that, then private members' bills might not be able to do virtually anything, even the declaration of access and others. Most things will require more investment in the time of civil servants or public officials. So I think that it is becoming a little bit of a fig leaf under which executives are going to oppose things that they don't like. Having said that, I think the process that we went through to pass this bill that we are discussing was unfortunate. And Kwame Pianim makes an excellent point in an interview a couple of days ago that a lot of the fears that are being raised by the finance ministry and others should have been part of the process of passing the bill, engaging the parliament, and that, in fairness, even the president, apropos Kwesi Prempeh's point, didn't need to wait for the bill to be passed, that he could have called the leaders of parliament, engaged them privately, sent his ministers to talk to them. In other words, he should have used his influence to try and shape the bill so that it will get to an acceptable one. Having said that, to comment on the substance of the bill...
But Doc, they have done this, except that there's one thing we must agree, that there is this, let's call a spade what it is. There's this mob lynch, hysteria, fanaticism about this bill. The religious, and so you see, even MPs who want to state a position about law and procedure against the bill are careful to begin by saying, I support it. Because if they dare give an indication that they are doing anything that will give an impression that they are against it, they will be tagged, first of all, as gay. So nobody has been listened to. Those who had contrary views have not been listened to. You don't agree?
No, I don't. And actually, I think that if we say that, then we are making a confession on behalf of the president that he's ineffective. This is the president who managed to prevent Parliament, his own party, from sacking the finance minister because it was important to him. So when we say that if we accept what you are saying, we are just saying that the president has been ineffective. If he were effective, then we wouldn't be here. And I agree with Professor Kwesi Prempeh that the bill, while I think that the general purpose of the bill is understandable, having gotten past the question about whether it is even important enough for us to engage in it, it's too broad. I think Pierre Trudeau actually defined the question of LGBT rights in 1968 when he said, our governments have no place in our bedrooms. I think that the most serious concern about this is the invasion of people's privacy. I think that it is important to regulate public conduct, that it is good on cultural perspectives to talk about where we want our society to go and to try and make laws that promote that. But I think Kwesi Prempeh makes very good points about things that in effect can be done by heterosexual couples and are not criminal. And when they are done by gay couples, they are criminal. That seems on the face of it to be discriminatory. But I think if the appropriate process had been engaged in, we'll find a bill that is narrower, milder, and more tailored and fit for purpose. Having said that, I think though that the response of external factors, the US and Britain and all those people are unfortunate, because I live in the US and Professor Kwesi Prempeh has lived here for a long time. It took a long time for America to get to where it is on this issue. It was contentious, and even now, that officially, the American government, as it is now, is for it. There are a lot of people in different states who actually have significant reservations about it. And indeed, if we woke up in January 2025 and there is a different government led by President Trump, the American government's posture to the rest of the world on this issue will be very different. So having said that, I think there must be continuing constructive engagement, and that they should sit back while Ghanaians, competent Ghanaians like Professor Prempeh, Tetua Menu and others, as well as the Christian Council and others, with their compassionate elements rising up to say that, yes, we may not like this particular conduct, but this is also about love. These are our brothers and sisters, they are family, so that we can reach a middle ground that is reasonable and that they should accept, as President Mills of blessed memory said in 2011, that societies evolve differently. We have different perspectives, that if they think they have reached a particular state, they should leave us to, in effect, work out our evolution in our own time and for our own purposes. I think that is the way to do it, and particularly on the anniversary of our independence, these bullying tactics call to question our basic independence, and I think that they are compelling even people who otherwise might have concerns about this bill on grounds of sovereignty and national pride to support it, and that is counterproductive. If they set out to help the gays, at the end of the day, what they are doing is that they are putting gays more at risk by these policies that in effect go there to exercise and show national pride. And I think that is unfortunate.
You live in the U.S. Are you happy about? Let me find out first. Have you updated your CV, for example, to indicate who you are? Because you are required to indicate if you are. Is it he, she, he, him, or she, her, hers? That thing. Have you updated? Have you updated your CV to that?
I'm not required to do that, and I won't update my CV. I am he, him, and forever that. And I work in the healthcare field, so I understand the question about being sensitive about LGBT people in caring for them, the fact that being sensitive and being empathetic leads to better care and all that. But having said that,
in the circumstances you just mentioned, sorry to cut in, you care for them as a surgeon. What should Ghanaian doctors be doing in the event that this is passed? Can they work in the first place? Yeah.
Ghanaian doctors should be caring for patients. I take the view, and I did that even when I worked for a time helping prisoners, that as a physician, once somebody sits in front of you, that person is a patient, period. Regardless of whatever else is happening in their lives, whether they are LGBTQ, whether they are prisoners, whether they are murderers, whether they are men, whether they are women. So that is what I subscribe to. But having said, I think that some of these changes that people are seeking go a little too far, but I want to stick to the fundamentals. And I think that basically the laws that existed in Ghana before they passed this bill adequately caters for the things that we needed to cater for, that we need to guard the public space so that people do not offend our cultural sense of decency. But we ought not to be going into people's bedrooms and requiring families to report on members of their family and other things. There are some of these things that go too far. I think that a more forceful exercise of leadership on the part of the president and his cabinet should have helped shape this bill so that it will pass in a form that will be more acceptable to people like Professor Kwesi Prempeh and others who are legitimately concerned.